how we're going to track attendance for you. And so fill out the form, stay present. There's a really important question that you might not be able to answer this one question at the end until you get closer to the end. So even if you don't fill it out till then, that's great. And I hope you enjoy the show.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. We've had some crazy developments with YouScience, a lot of them in the last 2 or 3 days. Not going to get to hear about some of that cool stuff till the very end. So hopefully I can keep you captivated and share with you some really, really big ways that YouScience has affected our high school and our CTE program. So Henley High School, about 10 minutes from California. We're south of Klamath Falls. We got about 670 students. If you're a sports person, we're 4A level. And right now we've got 5 career pathways: agriculture, mechanics, ag science, engineering, health ocs. And we're right now in the process of trying to create digital art as a new program of study. And right in the middle of that. So thank you, Brian, for helping out with that. That's going to be a good deal for us. Just a little bit about my background. I was originally a manufacturing engineer, went to Oregon State and did engineering, and about 4 or 5 years into that, got into teaching. I've taught math, engineering, been a CTE coordinator, like 1 period a day, half days. And I'm really lucky now that my job at Henley is 7 periods a day CTE coordinator. So sometimes people are like, what do you do? Or what does that even mean? And our programs have 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year goals. And my job is to be the time for those teachers that they don't have, to really accelerate that timeline and have their 10-year goals happen in 1 or 2 if we can, or have their year-long goals happen in a month. And we've been able to do some pretty fun stuff with a lot of support of the people in our region. And our teachers are really outstanding and really, really driven. And I've got probably the coolest job in our district, which is getting to support them and then kind of help us pivot to the needs of our community. So right now, that's my job. And that's where this came up, is I actually had the time to attend some meetings, hear about YouScience, and get us on board. So I'll kind of tell you how it affected us in a positive way. Where it started for CTE was really part of our recruiting plan. Before we had ever heard of YouScience, we were going to have an 8th grade CTE day, and then the next week have our high school counselors walk over to the middle school, because we're about 500 feet away. And then those kids could forecast after they had the CTE day, and then they'd get into their career pathways here at the high school. And we thought that was pretty slick, and we thought we were pretty smart. And a lot's changed since we came across YouScience. But first, some people say, well, what is 8th grade CTE day? And if I blow through these slides kind of quick, it's just because they're pictures. And these are all pictures from back in Bend when I was the CTE coordinator at Bend Senior High. Our feeder middle school was about 3 miles away. So back then, we took a day with all of our CTE teachers and 15 to 20 of the best students in those programs. And we set up 15 or 16 stations on the middle school campus. And their principal was gracious enough to basically give us the 8th graders for the entire day. So we'd meet in the gym, have a big talk about what is CTE, what are our goals for you as far as leaving high school on the path for a high wage, high demand job. And here are the programs we offer at Bend. And so as you're going around all these stations today, please be thinking when our counselors come next week, what are the top 3 or 4 classes you're going to want to sign up for? Intro to engineering, intro to automobiles, which is a class we had up there. We have not gotten to do CTE day yet at Henley High School because of COVID. We get to do it for the first time this year. And so it works even if you're not a walk to school campus like us. And really the purpose of this was to get not just our classes full, but full of the right kids and match kids to their programs. And so you can see pictures of here. This was from our metals program. We had a pretty good business marketing program on the left. Kids had 10 minutes to come up with their own drink. We had a couple different stores at Bend Senior High. On the right-hand side, we had a pretty strong culinary program. Kids had 10, 12 minutes to come up with their own dessert, from a list of ingredients had in front of each other after a short presentation on color preparation, whatnot. We had our own CT student store at Bend High, where all the student-led businesses got to sell, and market their items that were manufactured by student-run businesses and classes. And this is kids trying to set up the mannequins, for the student store. we had a pretty strong engineering program. So the kids had a couple different challenges, whether it was like dropping stuff down a chute, a race to the bottom, or coming up with the best marshmallow guns, 10 or 12 minutes to come up with a plan, execute it, and test it. Trying to get kids excited about those programs. We had a food truck that was kind of the combination of our culinary and our business programs coming together for junior and senior year. So at first, this was our recruiting plan, 8th grade CTE day, go right into forecasting, and now we'll get into high school. What's changed since YouScience, you saw those 3 kind of activities on our timelines now turned into, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, something like this. And the way YouScience has changed this for us is that we had our 8th graders, every single one of them take the YouScience aptitude. We call them aptitude games at the middle school level. We just call it a test at the high school because the kids have a lot less anxiety. But when we approach this at the middle school level, we call them, aptitude games. And so last year, every single one of our 8th graders took the YouScience aptitude games. The following week, 3 or 4 of us would go over at a time from the high school and meet with each one of those individual 8th grade classes and kind of go over the results. Then the plan was to have 8th grade CTE day. That didn't get to happen last year. That'll happen this year. Then our counselors would head over for forecasting. So you're seeing just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for our kids to learn what they're good at, which is what the aptitude games tell them, what programs we offer, get them on a path to a high wage, high demand, high quality life, and fill up our programs with the right kids. I'm going to talk more about the second half of that graph or that flow chart later in the night, because those are some of the exciting things that we've really just formalized in the last 2 or 3 or 4 days here at the high school, as far as we're actually taking 8th graders and check in with them multiple times a year, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, and really trying to ensure that they leave here with a plan. Okay, getting ready for students to take the aptitude games. Do not feel bad if it takes weeks and days or even months of false starts. I didn't know anyone over at the middle school when I started this project. It was only my 3rd year in my school. And so sending emails to the counselor, sending emails to the principal, leaving phone calls, a lot of them went unanswered because there was just no relationship. And so it felt really easy on some days. I should just quit this project. This is just not going anywhere. I can't get anyone to buy in. Really, really difficult. And so if you find yourself in that situation, we found ourselves in the exact same one, multiple times, just wanting to quit because we couldn't get any traction. Biggest advice I could give to people starting this, if you're in the building where it's taking place, that's much easier. People still ignore emails, phone calls, texts. And my advice is if you can get in front of someone and talk to them face to face, that's the absolute best thing to do. So in this case, I walked over to the middle school, had 2 guys out front, sorry, you're not a teacher, not a student, can't come in, 10 minutes of healthy debate. And all of a sudden I got into the office and was able to make an appointment with the principal, was able to sit down with her, explain the who, what, when, where, why of how we wanted to use these aptitude games to recruit her kids into our programs, give them a better life by participation in our CT. And she said, that's great. What else can we do? So after 4 or 6 weeks of nothing, 1 10-minute conversation face to face, and now the project's off and running. So maybe it's too simple of an idea as far as advice, but get in front of someone's face, talk to them, and things start moving pretty fast. It sounds ridiculously funny, but it happens. When the principal at the middle school saw the name YouScience, she just assumed that this project was related to science classes. And so the first meeting I ever got set up with a couple weeks later was with the 7th and 8th grade science departments at the middle school. And when I walked into the room, it was everyone leaning back in their chair, arms crossed, dirty look. I need to go prep. I need to go grade tests. Why are you here to waste my time? And you just got to be confident this is a good enough product. It has provided us so much value to get past those first 30 seconds of icy stares. And once we got to explain to that group the who, what, when, where, why, and how of this project, the 7th grade teachers, who 2 of them were our biggest They spent the first 5 minutes of the meeting very vocal, very angry about why we were wasting their time. Once they realized it wasn't for 7th graders, they said, "This is fantastic, wonderful," and they took off. And once we had time with the 8th grade teachers and got to explain a little bit more, they said, "This is wonderful. We would love for you to come in and do this with our kids. This sounds really, really important as far as connecting them to a good career." Our Klamath area as a whole is pretty depressed. There's some people that live really well, and there's a lot of people that don't. And doing whatever we can to improve the quality of life of all of our students by giving them better jobs and better careers, that's only going to better our community. So we're really fortunate these 8th grade teachers like, "Yeah, this is good. We will absolutely give you time to do this in our classes." Piling up a list of stakeholders as far as people who can help you. One of the teachers in particular in the 8th grade group was really, really excited. And so there was only 2 8th grade teachers at our school for science, and identifying Maria as someone who was really, really excited about this project. Okay, that's the person I can email. That's the person I can call. Having that contact, especially not being in the building, for me was so critical. Obviously, the first contact and the first key person being the principal. The next hardest thing to do once you get buy-in and know that you're going to move forward on this project is collecting the data for the students and getting it imported into the system. And the best people for that at our middle school was the counselor. So they've got one counselor, and that was Mrs. Ramirez, and she kind of had the control over the data system. She's the one who can get you first names, last names, emails, etc. At our school, that's the registrar. But whatever the layout or the setup of your school is, that person is absolutely important. It's really, really intimidating. The nice thing about once you take this project on as a pilot, there's weekly trainings with ODE and YouScience, and they're wonderful. They will literally answer every single question you have for an hour, and then some. They did that for us. I know that when we first started attending kind of the help sessions and the opening entry-level meeting, I felt so stupid. The line I've always used, I feel like the bad kid in the back of the room with homework not done. And just knowing the teacher is going to call on you and attending the help sessions with ODE, making the right contacts at YouScience so that you could email and call outside of the help sessions were so very helpful. But the person that's really critical, getting the students' information loaded into the systems, either that counselor or that registrar. And it seems like it's going to be an impossible task. It ends up being a 5-minute task, and we're going to show you in a couple of screens what that looks like. And once we had Mrs. Ramirez on board, she helped me a ton. Kind of skipped ahead and already said that bullet point. Every problem's hard the first time you solve it. And I was really intimidated the first 2 or 3 months. And I'm really glad that we kept showing up. When we get to the last 2 or 3 slides tonight, you're going to see some of the impacts that's had on our school. And that's why I hope if you're on the fence or not sure about how all this works, just to keep pushing through and identifying people at YouScience and people at ODE and people in our own region. For us, it's Carla and Brian, and they've helped us so much get through these walls and provide enormous value for our students. Once again, getting ahead of myself and just kind of listing, some things on this next bullet point. What I wish I would have done for this presentation, maybe I'll do it at the end of the night if we have time, is just type the names and the contacts of the 5 people who've been most helpful in getting Henley High and Henley Middle to where it needs to be. And some people on that list, and a lot of them are on this meeting. And so when we get to the question and answer, that's a thing I can absolutely help you with. Is here's the 5 or 6 people who got us over the hump and got us to where we are today. Okay, the next couple slides here's some places where people can get hung up, and it actually can be really easy. And this particular slide is something in the YouScience program. When you go through the training, they show you how to do this, and it can be intimidating. We've had to make a couple mistakes to learn the hard way. Everything in row number 1 right there has to stay the same. If you change one character in row number 1, the YouScience program is not going to accept your Excel file getting uploaded into the program. A couple phone calls back and forth with YouScience to help us confirm that. This is where that counselor, that registrar is so important. I sent this file to the middle school counselor, Mrs. Ramirez. And then when we tested our 12th graders this year at the high school, sent it to our registrar, Robin Morris, and said, hey, can you guys get the whole 8th grade class or the whole senior class in there? And they said, absolutely. 5 minutes later, that email comes back to me. As long as it's in those same formats, the way column A, B, and C, D, and all look, the YouScience program will accept it. You upload that into YouScience, and literally 30 seconds later, this gets spit back out to you. I've cut off the first and last names and the student IDs of our students, so you can just see the tail ends of their emails. You can't really identify anyone. What you see in column E is a special access code. You may or may not need that. You can see in column G, it says not sent. What that's referring to is the best way we've found to get these invitations out to kids is there's a way through the YouScience program, and you learn it in the more advanced training, is to send an email to each kid through their school email. And once they open up that email, they literally click on a link and they get to the next screen, which I'm going to show you. The only way we've ever had to use those access codes is if new students don't have a school email yet, or perhaps they came to our school and transferred late and never got that email. And so we have those access codes handy, but we rarely ever use them. Before we even get to that point where students are sitting in front of a computer and they're ready to take these aptitude games and kind of jumpstart the rest of their lives, what I've learned in talking to 6 or 7 other schools in the last couple of weeks and kind of reflecting on our own practices, the first 30 to 60 seconds you sell to kids is the most critical time with those kids. And we were lucky enough at the 8th grade level that the Principal Creed, they had an advisory period every single day, kind of like a homeroom. And I said, could we do an assembly in the gym, bring all the 8th graders in, talk to them all at once, and give them the who, what, where, when, why, about why this is important to them? And she said, absolutely. We gave the same aptitude games to our seniors this year in a senior seminar class. That's 5 different classes. So that was a little more time consuming, where me personally went to each one of those 5 senior classes and gave a similar spiel, but selling why this is so important and getting that hook, that initial hook, is really, really critical. And so I don't think this project can be successful unless you have some kind of a hook yourself. And that looks different for each school. It's got to be someone with knowledge of the program, someone who's taken the test or the aptitude games themselves and has a good understanding of why we're doing this. That person's got to be the person up in front of the room. I really think that had we just let our senior seminar teachers or the 8th grade teachers at the middle school, well, here's what we're doing and why, I don't think there would have been quite as much buy-in. So at the 8th grade level, we did 2 different assemblies. They had an A group and a B group, because back then was COVID times. The assembly was maybe 10 to 12 minutes long. I think part of what happens when you start selling the kids on why we're doing this, I mean, the hook for us was, we want every single one of you to graduate high school with a high wage, high demand job. We want you to have paid vacation. We want you to have paid health care. We want you to have a paid retirement. We want you to buy a really nice home and drive a nice vehicle. We want you to be able to go on vacations and have ATVs and get to go on hunting trips. You ask an 8th grade class, like, how many people does that sound interesting to? Like, everyone raising their hand, that sounds like a wonderful, wonderful life. That's why we're doing this. We're going to take these aptitude games. We're going to connect you to programs we have at Henley High School. We're going to put you on the path to that good life. They're hooked at that point. And I think the next piece of information that's really critical for them to hear, and it's best if it comes from their own teachers who have taken the aptitude games, is this is not going to be like any other test you've taken. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no A, there's no C, there's no F grade. They're going to give you a series of challenges. And all we ask of you is try as hard as you can, do your very, very best. And the computer program is going to take 60, 70, 80 years worth of psychological, social science research, and it's going to see the way your brain functions and match that based on what you're good at and how your brain solves problems, and match that to your strengths and say, here's the careers that fits your strengths. Here's how you can make good money with good benefits based on what you're good at. At this point, the kids are leaning forward. They're super interested. This is very different from math. It's very different from science class. It's very different from English. It has all to do with them and their future, and they're jacked. After their teachers kind of share their own frustrations with how they felt, not knowing the right answer right away, knowing there is no right answer, and how their brain hurt. One of our senior seminar teachers said, I had to get up and drive down to the mini mart and get a soda and a candy bar. And then he realized he wasn't able to come back in, and he missed 2 or 3 of the tests. The 8th graders and the seniors, hearing that their own teachers had those type of frustrations, it made it okay for those 8th graders and those seniors to say, you know what, my own teacher's getting frustrated. I can sit down and give this my best bet. Hearing Mr. Woodruff and Mrs. Hepper talk about that. But once the teachers shared their frustrations, we then said, here's our 5.5 CT career pathways. I typed that 5.5 there, the reference to digital art, it's on the way. Here's engineering, here's health occupations, here's ag mechanics, kind of priming the kids for when you finish these tests, these games, and you start seeing the results. Here's the CTE pathways we're going to connect you to at Henley High School. The last part of that assembly, or in our senior seminar classes, the last part of that initial pitch to the kids is, we're not just going to have you take the games at the middle school or the test at the high school and throw you out into cast you to the wolves. We're going to come back. We're going to come back as a team and meet with you and talk about your results and talk about what they mean and how that's going to affect you in their future. I think that makes those kids feel good that someone's going to follow up. This is something we wish we would have done last year, and we did this with our seniors this year in senior seminar. So what you're seeing in front of you is an example of one of our pathways maps, and this is our pathways maps for engineering. And so the very end, what we wish we would have done at the 8th grade assembly is pass out a packet. So as those kids are leaving the gym or when they get back to their homeroom, have their teacher pass out a packet of our 5 pathways maps. And that way those kids can start to see, oh, okay, these are the classes that are offered at the high school. These are the classes I might start in. So when I get the results of these aptitudes games back, I'm going to be looking for intro to engineering or intro to health occupations or intro to ag mechanics. And they can start thinking in their mind, this is what might be the result of taking these games. And they're going to look over to the right and see some of these jobs and just start filling their brains with questions, but more importantly, filling their head with the why. Okay, this is why I'm doing this. I might be a civil engineer making X amount of dollars a year. I might be a web developer making X amount of dollars per year. So before the kids have even taken those aptitude games, they're already kind of thinking, this could be me someday, and this is why I'm doing this. And I think that's really, really powerful as far as getting buy-in from those students. This is an example of a health occupations pathways map, and just another thing that we wish we would have passed out to the 8th graders, but we did pass out or put up on the whiteboard for our seniors when we had our seniors take the test this year. Okay, maybe some of the biggest things that I can provide help with today is some of the cheat sheets that we made for Maria and Nathan, were 8th grade teachers at the middle school, and that's where this project started. It was originally a middle school pilot. It's just grown into the high school because we love the program so much, and it's so beneficial. When you go through the official training with YouScience and ODE, it's wonderful. And one of those trainings, they take you to a page. I felt like there was just endless amount of things you could click on, and it was little bits of help or how-tos or little guides from YouScience. And me personally was overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, well, these teachers over at the middle school who are not even in the same building for me, if I just give them a link to that page with that master list of helps and how-tos, they're really going to be overwhelmed. And so I need to make it as easy as possible for them to administer this test or these aptitude games when I wasn't there. So I created a little cheat sheet. And on that first cheat sheet that I kind of gave to Maria and Nathan when I walked over to middle school and met with them for the second time was, here's how kids are going to log in, and here's how they're going to get kids to actually get into the system when they get them into the computer lab over at the middle school. They took that login. We use Schoology as a distance learning platform. And so they put that blue hyperlink in their class in Schoology. So they just said, okay, all you kids go into Schoology, go to today's assignment, click on that hyperlink. That's going to take them to the create account page. We try to keep everything really simple at Henley, where every kid has a student email and they all use the same passwords for all of their different, whatever their Google password is, that's what they use for their school email, and any other system they use at Henley. We try to use a single login. And so we just tell them it's the same school email you always use. It's the same password used for Google and everything else. Now you see in the lower left, it asks for the activation code. If they clicked on the link in an email, you wouldn't need that activation code. Back when we did this the first time with our middle schoolers, we didn't send the email because we didn't know how much the middle schoolers use their email or how effective that would be. So we had all of our middle schoolers do it this way, where here's the email, here's the password, we'll give you an activation code, and then they're in. With our seniors, we sent them an email, went to the link, they didn't need the activation code. That's minutia. YouScience, ODE, or us, we can support you with that later as far as what's the easiest way to get that information to your students. The next screen is asking the kids for a bunch of personal information, demographics about themselves. What's really, really critical, and I don't think you can see it very well here at the bottom, but there's 5 or 6 different zones. I'm in middle school, I'm in high school, I'm in college. There's a couple of separate options. It's really critical those kids click on the correct zone. So if they're 8th graders, they definitely need to click on the middle school. If they're high school, they need to click on the high school. And that's because the results of the middle school test look a little bit different than the results of the high school test. And so I created this cheat sheet for Maria and Nathan at the middle school, just to say, hey, these are things, point out before you let the kids open up the computers and start. The second cheat sheet that we created, and this came up in our 3rd meeting where I walked over and helped out the 8th grade teachers. You guys can read. I don't need to read all those items for you. Number 1 and 2 end up being really helpful. Maria and Nathan tried to do this in 2 days, and they were very successful. At the middle school level, they had 50-minute class periods, and they were able to log in, create accounts, and take all the aptitude games in 2 50-minute periods. Most kids finished with 15 to 20 minutes to go. But that 2-day testing schedule, those proctor to-dos, that really gave Maria and Nathan the confidence they needed. We can pull this off. They went through that checklist. That gave them all the confidence they needed to have, not have me be in the room with them that day. Now, 3, 4, and 5, those are really good things. I wish we would have sent out an email to all the parents. I wish we would have provided them that link with that. I think we would have got a lot more better conversations going on in our community. We just didn't have the time. We were flying by the seat of our pants. We went hybrid on January 3rd last year and brought back students full-time at spring break. And so to be able to pull this off with the cooperation we had from our middle school, we thought was a miracle. But when we do this again, we're going to incorporate our parents, give them the information. Here's what your students are doing. Here's why they're doing it. We didn't do it with our seniors this year when they took the aptitude test during senior seminar, because it was like the last day of in-service, the senior seminar teachers asking for help on how can we get kids some information on what careers they might be good at someday. It's like, well, funny you should ask. Let's try this. And we literally did it a day later on the first day of school. So we didn't have time for a really effective launch incorporating our parents. And that's one of the things I'll kind of lament about as we close tonight, is what are some of the things we'll do different next time when we actually have time to do it better based on what we've learned so far. The last part of that cheat sheet that I created for Nathan, I'm really sorry to say, we haven't done any of these yet ourselves. I think they're really good. When we get a full, well thought out launch, we'd like to use it. YouScience provides all sorts of neat links for Facebook and other social media platforms. 7 and 8 are really good resources for people who maybe aren't quite so confident in what that post-conference should look like. when you're analyzing, the results with your students. I didn't do 7 or 8 myself. I didn't look into those because I knew the purpose we were using this, the aptitude games for it first. And I apologize if I keep jumping back between aptitude games and aptitude tests. It's one and the same thing. They're synonymous. We use games at the middle school and tests at the high school. It's the exact same thing. So I don't want to confuse anyone who's new to this by using the 2 different words. We knew what we wanted to get out of this at Henley Middle and Henley High. So I didn't jump into 7 or 8. But if you're unsure or unconfident about how to handle the post-op of this with your kids, there's some really good resources there to help you out. The reason this was so successful is that we gave the 8th grade team and our 12th grade senior seminar teams total flexibility about when to do this. When we did this with our 8th graders last year, we knew we wanted to do it before forecasting, so we approached them about 2 or 3 months before forecasting. Hey, we just need to get the test, the aptitude games, and the analysis done before our counselors go over and forecast. Last year, this worked out really well with the suspension of state testing due to COVID. The 8th grade science team said, we'll just use those testing days that would have been for state testing, and we'll do the aptitude games instead. Once we got into the rooms and did the post-op and the analysis of the results and the connection to our programs at Henley, our 8th grade partners were so enthused about how this is this is the point of school, is to bring everything together, everything the kids have learned in all their different subjects, and get them on that path to a high wage, high demand job that even if we have to go back to state testing next year, we will give up 2 or 3 days of our curriculum to make this happen. But last year, what really made this work was, we don't need you to do this next week. We don't need you to do it on the December 12th and 13th. We gave them the autonomy to choose the time. What was really, really successful, we found this with the 8th graders last year and the seniors this year, you can get the aptitude games done in less than 2 50-minute periods. Most kids finish with 15 or 20 minutes to go. This was the coolest part. Even in 8th grade, every kid who finished early, even if it was 5 minutes early, there's a button that shows up that says view results. And all the kids clicked view results. And this is where we got caught off guard, is all the 8th graders started running up to their 8th grade science teachers and saying, hey, what's the first class in engineering? Hey, what's the first class in egg mechanics? Hey, what's the first class in the health program? Do they have a health program? And our poor 8th grade teachers just didn't know. They know now, but one of our projects at the high school, earlier in the presentation, I kind of showed you a couple pictures of those pathways maps. Those weren't done at the time. And so Maria and Nathan called us up at the high school and said, hey, do you have any visuals of what classes you offer and what the first class is and what the second class is as a sophomore? It's like, no, but we will next week. And that forced us at the high school level to get our pathways maps done, get nice copies over to 8th grade teachers, because what we saw happening is they were the ones on the front lines fielding all these questions from kids. So before we were able to come back the next week or week after, they'd have 20, 30 kids a day like, hey, what programs do they have again? And so that really forced us to get our butt in gear. But sometimes people worry about student buy-in. That first 30 to 60 seconds, when you hook them, why are we doing this? Because we want you to have a good job someday. We want you to better our community. We want you to have a good life, whether it's an assembly or meeting an individual class. And then once they get into the program and see the quality of the results, they want to dive into this and ask how it connects. And so that was a pretty big win for us. I think the second most critical part of this program, other than the hook or the initial sell to the kids, is analyzing the results with fidelity. We took 5 different trips over to make sure we covered all the different 8th grade classes. And thank you to Henley Middle. At this point, they said, you know what? This is so cool. We'll give up a day of our science curriculum so you guys can come over. The teams we went over with, it would be me and counselors, me and our principals a different day, me and a couple CT teachers on a different day, we took our career counselor, but we always took 3 or 4 different people from Henley at a time. And the reason is because we would take 3 brave souls. Okay, Brian, okay, Carla, okay, Jim, you guys are volunteers, thank you. We'd show their results and go through that individual person in front of the whole class. And then the remainder of the period, our 3 or 4 people from Henley High School would walk around the middle school classroom and try to connect with each kid in that class 3 to 5 times and analyze their results. So we'll show you what that looks like really quickly. Eventually, our middle school teachers, partners, they were so confident in what we offered and the platform that then they started walking around helping too. So picture 3 to 5 adults walking around in a room. This is during hybrid times. So 10 to 15 8th graders at a time. And so 5 adults for 15 8th graders, get in and talk about what they're good at, what they're strong at, what classes we offer, and how that connects to their future. Pretty cool for the 8th graders to kind of get that one-on-one help from people at the high school. One of the things you can do when you get access to the program, become an administrator, you can go back and run a report and see when the last time someone's logged in and how many different careers they've saved. When we did this with the 8th graders last year, I mean, it was weeks and even months after we did the aptitude games in class, and a third of the 8th graders were logging in on their own and had logged in that week to look at more careers and use the program. So that's pretty powerful. Kids on their own, 8th graders, 12, 13, 14-year-olds going in on their own to see the results of these careers and these aptitudes. That's pretty. They're not going on their own to do their math homework. They're not going on their own to look at their, Beowulf, whatever English book they're reading. So that's the strength of the program there. And with our seniors, we ran this a couple weeks ago. We hadn't used it with our seniors since September 9th. I ran the report on like the 27th of September, and 30 to 40% of our seniors had logged in that week. So on their own time, one girl had saved 22 different careers. So on their own time, as a senior, and all the busy distractions they had, going back into this program. So if that doesn't sell the program to people on the fence right there, I don't know what will. I don't know how many kids spend that much time on their other assignments, but that was a pretty neat report for us to see. Okay, what the results actually look like. This is an example of what the results look like at the middle school level. So let's say I've just finished the aptitude games. This is what I see. Those top 3 clusters are the career clusters that fit my strengths the best. And the next 4 clusters down are my 3rd through 7th career clusters that fit my strengths and aptitudes. At least every career-related exploration activity I've seen in my life has been interest-based. The problem with doing that with 13 to 18-year-old kids, they haven't had very much time on the planet. They don't have enough experiences to know what they should be interested in, which is why I love this system so much. It opens their eyes to things they've never even considered or don't even know. The most fun we have analyzing the results with kids, most of these jobs and careers they've never even heard of. And so we get the opportunity to explain to them what they are, or in some cases, we don't know what the career is as an adult, and we get to go through the process of the deep dive with them. This particular person, let's say they chose architecture and construction. The next thing you'll see, and this is where the high school aptitude games start off, is a huge list of careers. This is my presentation. I'm not in the actual program right now. There's generally over 100 or 150 results here, and it takes the kids a while. Our senior seminar teachers at the 12th grade level gave the students 2 full days to roll through these careers, these matches, and just look. And the kids used every bit of it. Our senior seminar teachers made the kids write a 3-page paper. Each one of the 3 pages was about a different career, and each page required 20 to 25 pieces of information that comes from clicking on each one of these individual careers. I mean, I think the 3-page assignment got buy-in from the seniors, but also the information is the buy-in. They love looking through this stuff. And so 2 full days of our senior seminar classes, 1 full day with instructors over at the middle school level going through these individual careers. So let's say the student picked on civil engineer. The first thing they're going to see, educational investment, the projected openings is openings across the country, not across the state of Oregon. The salary range is obviously very interesting to those students. The majors on the right-hand side, you know, those are different majors. If you were going to go to Boise State or Oregon State, what major would you actually choose? Because believe it or not, for our college directed kids, they don't even know what a major would be in engineering. They don't even know what a major would be if they want to do ultrasound. So that's really, really valuable. We tell our 8th graders and our seniors, read that next paragraph, day in the life. If you don't like that, stop. Crossing off a career and eliminating is just as important as finding one you might be interested in. If you cross off 30 today, that might feel like a failure. That's a really, really, really successful day. You never have to worry about those 30 jobs ever again. Super, super successful. If you're still in, let's keep going. Each one of these careers has 1 to 6 different groups of core tasks. We tell the students to read through those core tasks. If you're still in, keep drilling down. If you're not, quit. Cross that off, never worry about it, go back. This is the really cool part. It just gets cooler and cooler the farther you get into the individual results for that single career. Now I mentioned we had a senior girl who had saved 22 careers. Another senior boy had saved like 18. So they drilled down to that many on their own time outside of class. It's that captivating a program to your students. Now, the one thing I wish I would have done differently, this particular civil engineer, you can see it's bachelor's degree, master's, or doctorate. We have a lot of our kids, maybe 50% at Henley, who want to go to trade school or some other professional schooling that doesn't involve associate degree or bachelor's. That comes up as vocational award. And so if you start getting to the results here, now I'd write that down. If it says vocational award, what does that mean? You'll see tons of jobs where that comes up. Electrician, plumber, the big windmill that generates electricity technician, that'll show up as vocational award. Some of them have to do with welding. You'll see 49% with just a high school diploma. Like the kid's like, really? It's like, yeah, if you've taken 4 years of welding and go down to, you know, start sweeping the floor at a business and then start welding, you might absolutely get into that job. Or if you're a good enough welder from a good enough program, you might get a great job right out of high school. So this is one that's really, really cool for the kids. We have a lot of kids, I don't want to go to college. Okay, let's eliminate this particular career because this particular career, civil engineering, you have to go to college. So let's find something else. At the middle school level, once we've got done drilling down into the results, and there's more than this, I've just truncated it for tonight. At the middle school level, we then said, okay, Adam, you're into engineering. Guess what? We've got an engineering program at Henley. Here's the pathways map. That class right here, Intro to Engineering, that's what you're going to sign up for when the counselors come over next week. Now, the really powerful thing about that is that our entry-level classes this year were all forecasted for like the 200% level. If we had 2 classes of Intro to Engineering and each class has 30 seats, so we can take 60 kids into that program, we had 100 to 120 kids forecast for that class. So as a high school recruiting tool, YouScience has been really, really effective as far as our recruiting strategy. Where it's been really neat, as a senior, we told the seniors, when you're done taking these aptitude games, and we show you a strength that you're good at, like let's say it's engineering, and you've never taken those courses, we will walk you down to the counseling office and change your schedule and get you into Intro to Engineering. And that happened with 10 or 12 of our seniors in senior seminar, whether it was health occupations, ag mechanics, because they wanted to learn how to weld and do woodworking or fabrication. That's really, really powerful, that it's never too late to change the path you're on, but you have to be on a path. So getting the 8th graders onto the right path and getting our seniors to understand that you can change when you're 20, you can change when you're 30, you can change when you're 50. We walked them down to the counseling office and got them into an intro class. You'll be with a bunch of freshmen, sophomores, who cares? This is your ticket to a good life. And I thought that was really, really powerful and really fun. Watch them walk out of the counseling office like, I'm going to be an engineer now. I'm going to be a welder. Super, super neat. One of the ways where this has really, really changed at the high school through conversations with our vice principals, our counseling staff. We have a separate career counselor, our senior seminar teachers, is that we've always had a personal education plan, because I'm pretty sure ODE makes us have it. It was a 3-page document that more or less got ignored and not really used. As we speak, that's being changed into a single 1-page document that's actually going to get used from 8th grade year to senior year. And I'll show you what that looks like very shortly. This is the same image I showed you earlier. And I know I already kind of talked through the first 4 bubbles as far as how that affects our 8th graders. What's changing now? And I wish I had a highlighter, and I misspelled freshman. Right here, our freshmen are going to be in those classes and on those pathways. And what we're going to do is we're going to check in with them the week before forecasting. Our career counselor is going to meet with every freshman one-on-one. And they're going to look at the classes they're in. Okay, you're in choir, engineering, and health occupations. Great. How's engineering and health occupations going? I don't like engineering. It's too much of this, and I want to do something different. Okay, we're going to reopen up your YouScience Aptitude Games results from your 8th grade year. Let's see what you're good at, and let's pair you with a new program. So we tried to get them on the right track as an 8th grader. We're going to check in with them as a freshman. If there's any career-related activities they need to do, our English department, our social studies departments have said, you know what, this is so important. As a school, this is so important. Like, this is the it of what we're doing here. This is our mission. If they need to do an activity in CIS, if they need to take the YouScience Aptitude Games as a freshman because they didn't go to Henley Middle School, they're going to carve out 2 or 3 days in a freshman English class and get to do that. And so that way, when they meet with that career guidance counselor their freshman year, we can get them onto the new pathway when they go into forecasting with their regular counselor the following week. So that's pretty cool. This 9th grade check, that's what I just described right there. In 10th grade, a month ago when I gave this presentation, we're going to have the 10th graders retake the whole aptitude games from start. We'll get new results and we'll check it again. Okay, you're in ag science and you're in choir and you're in our business marketing program. Those are going great. Excellent. Let's stay in those classes. Let's forecast to the next level advanced class up. You're not happy with business or you're not happy with ag science. Let's look at the results from this freshly taken YouScience Aptitude Games and let's get you onto a different track. So what you're seeing is our school as a whole organically has agreed to use this aptitude games and aptitude tests to actually check in each year with kids and make sure they're on the right track and make sure they're in the right classes. That's really, really powerful. We've never done this before. And so as a school, we're changing the way we serve kids, and it's uber positive. We just learned from YouScience, we don't need to take the entire battery of tests that sophomore year. What we learned with YouScience, the only 2 they need to retake is their personal interest. That changes with more life experience and their interpersonal communication style, because we're hoping that's improving and developing from their 8th grade year to their 10th grade year. So we're looking at 20-30 minutes of testing in the sophomore year. Any career-related activities, like retaking the YouScience aptitude tests or portions of it, or CIS, or anything we need to do, is going to happen in a social studies class during the 10th grade year, the 11th grade year, or the 12th grade year. So wow, buy-in from our English department as freshmen, buy-in from our social studies department as sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That's really, really special. So the 11th grade check-in is going to look a lot like the 9th grade check-in before they forecast for their senior classes at the end of their 11th grade year. Right before forecasting, counselors are going to check in. Are you happy with the pathways you're on? No? Okay, let's look at those YouScience Aptitude Games results and let's tie your strengths and skills to the programs we offer at Henley and recheck in. I've kind of already outlined what we're doing in senior seminar. That's what the first 2 days. We came in, gave our pitch. Here's the YouScience Aptitude test. Here's why you're going to do it. If you've been taking X classes your entire career at high school and you find out you've got a strength somewhere else and you want to investigate that strength, we'll walk you down to the counseling office. And it's been just ultra fascinating. Some of the best success stories I could tell you from our senior sem I'd say for half our seniors, they thought they knew they wanted to do with their life, and they looked at the results of that YouScience aptitude test and said, holy smokes, every career on here is exactly what I thought I wanted to do. How powerful is that? Everything I've always thought I wanted to do with my life, this aptitude test just told me that that's what I should be doing. So I'm going to move forward with confidence and pursue that dream. That's absolutely 5'3" tall girls walk like they're 10 foot tall, and 5'10" boys look like they're 13 feet tall, knowing that I have a future and I know where I'm going. And now all I need to focus on is, where do I apply? Where do I get the financial aid? What classes do I need to take at KCC to jump into this apprenticeship program someday? Because we don't have the darn pre-apprenticeship program yet at the high school. And so for those 50% of our seniors, it's like you hugging them and them hugging you, like, I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Well, at least till you change your mind when you're 22 or 26, but that's okay. Like, I changed my major 6 times in college, guys. You will. Jim from OD said you change your major 8 times now. It's okay to change your major or change your plan, but you got to be on one. For the other 50% of our seniors, holy smokes, I had this one really quiet gal. I'm so bad at social situations. I don't have that many friends. I lack so much confidence with my ability, social skills in the world, but these aptitude games just said, you know what? I have tremendous social awareness. I have the ability to walk into a room and size up people and understand their intentions and what's going on. These aptitude games just told me I should be a family counselor or a detective in the police force, or perhaps a private investigator. This thing that's been a weakness my entire life, this just showed me things that I'm actually good at when you get into the bands of personal strengths and personal aptitudes, and to watch those people jump up and say, wow, I actually am good at these things, and here's some careers. It's led to some wonderful projects in our senior seminar class. One particular shy girl I had in math for 3 years, she's dealt with a lot, some tremendous horrors at home and some tremendous hurdles to overcome. She knew she didn't want to go to college. She found a couple careers because of the aptitude games. And the career that she really, really wanted to dive into was either police detective. She said, I've had a lot of communication with police at my home based on what's going on in my home. I think I actually want to go to college now. I want to go get a 2-year degree in criminal justice and pursue either the social science version of this or the law enforcement side of this. I want to help people that have gone through what I've gone through. So here's a young woman who never wanted to go to college, just thought she'd be a secretary in town. And now, because of these aptitude games, has a path to a good job, and it's going to allow her to overcome her own personal circumstances, which are horrid. And those are the experiences we've had in our senior seminar class. It's really, really awesome to be in there. If you have any chance to be in the days where they're analyzing the results, it's like, wow, this is why you go to work each day. Like, this is the it. This is so, it's hard not to cry, and people do cry, and that's okay. I just hope that each and every one of you get to be a part of those days when the kids are going over the results. It's the crying's more for the seniors. The 8th graders are just excited because they know what the classes they're going to take next year, and that's going to take some anxiety out of high school. The seniors, this is real. They're 7 months away from real life starting. And the emotional conversations that occur when you're connecting them to the rest of their life is pretty fun. Okay, what's changed for Henley High in the last 2 weeks? And Jim, Carla, Brian, I really wanted to be done at 4:50 to make more Q&A. I know last time we went till like 4:12. We'll wrap up in the next 2 or 3 minutes because the Q&A is so valuable. I kind of just talked about what's going on in our senior seminar and how that's actually doing what it was intended to do. Is when you leave that class, when you walk across the graduation stage, you've got your FAFSA filled out, you've applied to that school, you've been accepted, you're picking out your dorm, you're picking out your apartment, or if you're going to community college in Klamath Falls or going in community college in Coos Bay or Eugene, that last month or two of senior SEM should be helping you find housing, find roommates, and the final details of actually pushing you out the door. Or if you want to be an electrician or a carpenter, and there's no pre-apprenticeship program here at the high school, well, actually getting you a summer job with a company in town where you can push a broom and clean up and get into an apprenticeship that way, or getting you into classes at KCC where you can get direct placement in 6 to 8 months. Senior seminars becoming what it intended to be, which is actually crossing the last few I's and dotting the last few T's. I know I got that wrong. Sorry, that's what my wife always says. Senior seminars becoming what it was always intended to be, of actually hugging the kids and saying, okay, go do your life. And it's never actually been that way. We're transitioning into that now. So that's been pretty emotional in those classes. This is something I touched on earlier, is that we've just decided informally in some meetings that sophomores are going to retake those games in their sophomore global studies class, and then we get to analyze those results with our career counselor. We literally haven't even had the time, going back to real school now, the 10 or 12 people at our school who are so pivotal in making this happen, we haven't even sat around a conference table yet. This has just been conversations in 2s and 3s, and the principal saying, yeah, that's good. That's good for our kids. Let's do it. Go forward. Yes. We'll eventually sit around our conference table and formalize this so everyone knows what everyone else is doing, but the important people are doing the important parts where they need to be doing it at this point. So this has all been outputs from signing up for YouScience. This is crazy. We've always dreamt of a pre-apprenticeship program at our school, and just 2 days ago, we made a presentation to our superintendent on, here's what our community needs. We need skilled labor. We'd like to create our own pre-apprenticeship program in carpentry here at the high school. And here's the benefit. These kids at our school can take these classes at Henley, graduate Henley High School. If they finish this program, get direct placement into an apprenticeship in our region, Southern Oregon JATC. And one of the 4 slides we used to sell our superintendent was the metadata that comes from when all of your kids take the YouScience APTITUDE games, tests. Sorry, I know I keep going back and forth on the name. You can gather this metadata. And where it was so critical for us as a school, our top 8 career clusters that came from the Henley 8th graders and the Henley seniors said that we should be teaching engineering, boom, got it. Basically, business, marketing, boom, we got it. Health occupations, boom, we got it. Teaching, we're adding that right now. 5 of the top 8 career clusters that came up for our kids are our 5 career pathways that we teach at CT here at Henley High School. The 3 that we weren't teaching was teaching, and we're adding that right now. Thank you, Brian. Digital art, art related stuff, we're adding that right now. And then it was in our top 4, but we haven't added it yet, was construction and stuff related to the trades. And so we were able to use this YouScience metadata combined with all the other data in our region that says we need skilled labor, and say, look, Glenn, this is what our kids are good at. Our kids are really, really good at the trades, especially surrounding construction. Like, we need to offer this program. And at the end of that presentation, he's like, what's stopping us from doing this? We need a teacher. We need to refurbish an old lab, a carpentry woods lab that hasn't been used in 25 years. And we need district commitment of consumables. And he sat back and said, go down to the money person at the district, get a bid, get a quote, we'll do this, and we'll move it to the top of our CARES funding priority list for the district. So using the metadata from YouScience just got us $500,000 to $600,000, probably more, because they're going to do the same thing at our sister high school. So really, you're talking $800,000 investment at the #1 priority list for our CARES funding, because we're able to tie data from YouScience with other data from our region and say, this is what we need to be offering to our kids.